Okay, so welcome everybody. This is Social Emotional Learning module. This is Course E, SEL, and Digital Citizenship. If you're interested, we'll talk about it in a minute. So I'm Christine. I have worked with some of you before in some of these other courses, but if you don't know me, I am a former elementary school teacher. I taught grades 3 to 5 for about 11 years, and I've been a literacy consultant for the last 10 years. I am a mother of 2 children, one teenager, one young adult, and I am really passionate about SEL for students and for teachers. So I'm really excited to teach these courses. Okay, take a minute and type in the chat how long you've been teaching, what you would do if you didn't teach, and what your favorite season is. And I'm going to keep moving as we do that, but I'd just like to see what people have to say. All right, these are our norms for today. So be here now, be as present as you can. I know there's always stuff going on in the background. We have a protocol that we're gonna stick to. We try to hear all voices. So please, at any time, if you have a question or a comment, you can either drop it in the chat or you can unmute and just kind of call it out. We will start and end on time. I value your time, and I know that you have lots of things going on. We take an inquiry stance in these courses. We take responsibility for impact, and we ground our statements in evidence. So this is Course E in the social emotional module, social emotional learning module. If you have not taken any of the other courses, no worries, it's a standalone course. If you have taken the other courses, that's great too. Either way works. And if you take today's course and it's your first one and you find the information relevant, I encourage you to come back. I will be teaching course F this afternoon, and then starting on next Monday, we start the cycle over. So I'll be teaching course A, and each week it will be a new course through a 6-week cycle. So there's always opportunity. We're here every Monday for the synchronous courses. And then if synchronous doesn't work for you all the time, we offer these courses asynchronously as well. And each course will earn you 1 CTLE credit. And in addition to the social emotional learning courses, we have 5 other modules that we offer. And I'm not going to be able to name them all off the top of my head, but one is on critical race teaching. We have, you know what, I'm not even going to try. But we have 5 other modules of courses, so check that out. And the links are actually in the resource page. I will put them in the chat at the end. So you have ample opportunity to take a look at those. Okay, so today's agenda, our essential questions for today are how we can connect digital citizenship with SEL across learning environments. And what methods and practices can we use to teach digital citizenship in our classrooms? And our objectives for today are to understand the importance of digital citizenship, to make connections between digital citizenship and SEL. And we're going to identify 6 areas of digital citizenship, and you're going to redesign one resource accordingly. So we'll give you a little bit of time to do some planning based on the information in the course. I'm just going to take a quick look at the chats. We have a range of experience levels. Oh, wow, 2 months. Awesome. fall, lots of fall. We got winter, summer. Okay, let me go back to those in a bit. So the note catcher was linked in the chat. I'm going to stop sharing and link it again because a couple of people just popped on. But if you haven't opened it, you can open it now, and you're going to need to make a copy. Oh, and I forgot to mention that this is being recorded. If you would like the recording, you can send an email and request it. They won't send it to you automatically, but they will send it to you on request. Okay, so the 4 key terms that we're going to be talking about today are digital citizenship, a digital dilemma, a learning room, and a red flag feeling. So digital citizenship refers to the responsible participation in civic and social activities through technology. And in order to build digital citizenship, there are 5 well, what we really want to do, it's really about teaching empathy. And so there are 5 components to teaching empathy. The first is building vocabulary. So students need to recognize feelings in themselves and others. And that begins with having the vocabulary to accurately identify emotions. There have been studies done with adults about how well they are able to identify emotions. And they're for the large majority of adults, and I can't give you a percentage, but it's a frighteningly high percentage. The three emotions that they identify are sad, mad, and glad, I believe. So 3 very basic emotions, and those are adults, which means that the large majority of children don't have the vocabulary around emotions. So it's really important. Well, first of all, it's important for us as adults to make sure that we have that vocabulary, and then we need to teach it to our students. Because if you can't articulate what you're feeling, then it's really difficult to know how to deal with it. And so then it comes out in things, in inappropriate behaviors, bullying, shutting down, whole, range of behaviors depending on the person. So it's really key to give kids that vocabulary so that they can talk about their feelings. And then we want to validate those emotions, because all emotions are valid. It doesn't mean that the way you express them is valid, but any emotion that you have is a valid emotion. Then we need to talk about how you best express it in a way that's productive, that allows you to process. If it's a negative emotion, how do you process that in a way that's not hurtful to anyone else, but is also good for your well-being? And then if it's a positive emotion, how can you express it? The third thing is teaching netiquette so that students understand how they can appropriately express themselves online. So it's a set of rules that guides appropriate behavior when they're interacting with others online. The 4th component is forming connections to gain perspective. So once they have the skills to communicate appropriately, they need to understand their own emotions, but then they also need to be able to recognize those emotions in other people, and having the perspective of that other person, and that's a higher level thinking skill. And then the 5th component is helping them to develop strategies to self-regulate their emotions. So again, it all starts with the vocabulary. If you can articulate what you're feeling, that's a huge first step in then being able to regulate those feelings and understand what's happening, because we've all experienced situations where we know there's something going on, like we can feel it in our body, we can feel it in our mind. There's some emotion percolating under the surface, but we don't know exactly what it is. And so the better able we are to figure out what that emotion is and then express it in an appropriate way, the better able we are to manage it, and keep ourselves, kind of in a stable frame of mind, so that we can continue with our day. Okay, so a digital dilemma is just a problem or a perceived problem that's caused by a use or misuse of technology. It could be involving social platforms, etiquette, information sharing, or privacy. We've all experienced that or have read, heard about that. Social media obviously is a big source of digital dilemmas. The Learning Room is an online work group for students to meet synchronously or asynchronously to share notes, resources, and develop projects. And a red flag feeling is a phrase that students can use if they need to describe something that's making them feel uncomfortable or anxious in a digital space or any other space for that matter. Again, going back to helping them to start to name those emotions and identify really like what their boundaries are, what they're comfortable with, what they're not comfortable with, and start to see, are they reacting to something that is really happening, and if so, then how do we handle it, and or has there been some kind of misunderstanding that we need to address. Okay, so the first activity that you're going to do in your note taker is to write about some of the rights and responsibilities of being a digital citizen. So there's a table in your note catcher that you can jot some ideas down. And then once you've jotted a few down, if you can just drop one or two in the chat and we can kind of just see, are we all thinking in the same way? Is there a difference of opinions? And let's just kind of have a quick discussion. So take a couple of minutes and then we will move on. If you just popped on, the note catcher is in the chat for you to use for the first activity. Okay, and if anyone wants to, oh, okay, great. Use etiquette is equals responsibility. Any other thoughts to drop in the chat? What are the rights and responsibilities of being a digital citizen? As a student, having the means and devices to the digital world, be respectful of other people's backgrounds, active participation, health and well-being, privacy and security. Great. Respectful and ethical behavior. Excellent. All right, keep them coming. And we are going to move on. Okay, so how are SEL and digital citizenship connected? There are three guiding principles in connecting digital citizenship with social emotional learning. And I think that, a lot of this is just, it makes a lot of sense. I think it's, seeing how they go together is, sometimes some of it is very obvious, some things may be less so. So, promoting digital citizenship is empowering students to think critically, behave safely, and participate responsibly in our digital world. I think that one of the things, and this is not news to anybody, but one of the big things that I think, because when I think about digital citizenship and citizenship in general, I feel like they're pretty similar, the kind of the golden rule: treat others the way you want to be treated, be respectful, be accepting, be open, all of those things. But I think that one of the big thing for kids is just understanding the reach that they have in the digital world, and how once something's out there, it's always out there and you can't get rid of it. And do they really understand what that means in terms of participating responsibly in, and what they're putting out into the world, either about themselves or about someone else. So SEL skills are crucial to managing digital issues with perspective, and SEL can be integrated into any classroom or lesson to support good decision making at home, at school, and in the workplace. So, if you can make good decisions in person, you should, with, the right knowledge, you should be able to make good decisions digitally as well. So take a look at this chart, which I believe is also in your note catcher. And you can take a couple of minutes to look at it and just think about specific activities in your, at your grade level that would address some of, the competencies that you see on the chart. You may be doing some of those already, or you may not be, but just take a couple of minutes and think about how you, what that might look like with the age of children that you work with. And thank you to everyone who put comments in the chat. And if anyone has an activity that addresses one of the competencies that they have found to be really successful, if you could share it in the chat, that would be great, because it's, these classes are a really great opportunity to learn from each other as well as from the content. Oops. Okay. All right. So these are the 6 core topics of digital citizenship: media balance and well-being, privacy and security, relationships and communication, cyberbullying, digital drama and hate speech, and news and media literacy. And I'm just going to take somebody put in the chat that they've shown videos on digital citizenship just to help students understand sort of the implications of being online, in terms of the way they treat others and then how they could potentially be at risk. I think that's really important. Okay, so okay, so media balance and well-being. We all know this one is a tough one for all of us. So ways that you can support students in this area is by offering device-free moments and acknowledge the ways that technology can be a distraction at times from deeper learning, depending on the activity at hand. And, I think digital wellness is definitely something that most of us probably could get better at. So digital wellness is the practice or the refraining from indulging in the internet and digital media for reasonable amounts of time. So it's basically knowing when to take a break from screens. And it's really important for everybody because too much screen time can have an adverse effect on your brain. We've all probably experienced that fatigue at the end of the day from being on a screen all day. And, we have fully developed minds. We really don't know what the impact of all of this technology is going to be on our children, because it's really the first generation of kids to grow up glued to a screen. So if we can encourage them to take breaks, it just goes a long way towards digital wellness. I myself try, not always successfully, but to stay off of social media from Friday night to Sunday afternoon. I wish I could tell you that I never break that habit, but I do. But I try really hard not to. And then I haven't done it in a while, but I will, like, once a year do like a 10-day break from social media. But it doesn't have to be that long. It can just be a couple of hours. You can, for meals, like in my house, we have no screens at the table. That's our rule. My kids, at this point, they know. And so if somebody comes for dinner, they will gently tell them, sorry, we don't allow screens at the table, which the first time that happened, I was blown away. But it does, when we start to create these habits, it does make a difference. So Adrian F. Ward at the University of Colorado performed a full study on the topic of digital wellness and discovered that screen time can impact transactive memory, empathy, and even gray matter development in young minds. So the best way to practice digital wellness is to leave the digital devices alone for a few hours every day. And so when you teach digital wellness, you can use a combination of health information, psychology, neurology, and current events to illustrate why it's important to take time away from devices. So, it's really about moderation in everything. So talking about moderation with digital wellness, with exercise and nutrition, just helping students understand why it's important for them to think about it. Oh, and thank you. Yes, someone said that commonsense.org has great resources. Some of the information in this presentation comes from there. So thank you for that reminder. It is a really good resource for that. Okay, privacy and security. One way that you can model privacy and security in the classroom is by offering age-appropriate lessons on protecting personal information and data privacy rights. Vicki Davis wrote a book called Reinventing Writing, and in that book, she outlines the fundamentals of responsible digital citizenship through 9 key Ps. And putting these practices into daily use in your classroom is a great way to model digital citizenship for your students. This actually comes from commonsense.org. It is linked in your resources. She wrote an article on it, and this information comes from that article. So passwords. Students need to be shown how to create secure passwords and taught basic password etiquette. And teachers need to adhere to password rules by not sharing their passwords or asking students to share online access. I recently took a course on digital security. I had to for work, and they talked about passwords, and we all know you're not supposed to use the same password more than once, and of course we all do it. But one of the things that they showed was the level of vulnerability of a password based on, if you do like hashtag, I don't know, the street you live on, for example, the chances of someone figuring that out are pretty significant. Whereas if you, even if you, and they don't recommend using things like the street that you live on or something like that, but even if you were to do that and change one of the letters in the word to like an exclamation point or the A sign, that significantly reduces the risk of somebody discovering your password, which I probably shouldn't have been surprised by that, but I was. So, things like that you can share with students around passwords. The second thing is privacy. Make sure that your classes understand how to protect their personal information to be safe online. They need to know how they can keep their addresses, emails, and phone numbers from, being hacked or stolen. And then thinking about, teaching them about how much personal information are you putting online? Like things like the members of your family or your favorite food probably shouldn't be. Well, first of all, if you're on social media, your profile shouldn't be public. But then, for a lot of these kids, they share their profile with everybody. So even if it's not officially public, they may have 1,000 followers, and half of them, they really don't know who they are. It's a friend of a friend of a friend. So just reminding them that you really need to be careful of what you're posting online and how much information you're giving about where you live, who you live with, your pet names, just things that someone could use against you if they wanted to. Photographs, what photos are safe to post? Do they know about geotagging, facial recognition, and accidental background identifiers? Just helping them make informed choices. And then thinking you need to teach them about copyrights and Creative Commons. They should know how they can check an image to make sure that it can be used and how to cite their sources. And as well, they need to understand about permission. So how they get off, do they need authorization to cite somebody else's work? And just the risks of operating online in terms of viruses, scams, phishing, and malware, and the dangers of identity theft. They also need to understand the difference between professionalism and personal interactions, and that looks different. So they need to understand the difference between the way that they would be interacting in the classroom and then what they might be doing in their interactions with their friends. And then their personal brand. Explain and display how anything that we share online travels across the globe and lives forever. So who do they want the world to see? What do they want the world to know about them? And do they understand about their digital footprint? So again, this article is linked in your resource page, so you can go back to it. Okay, digital footprint and identity. And these are some strategies for modeling that. Providing rules for group engagement in remote or hybrid settings to offer structure for how students to engage in virtual collaborations. So the same way you would in a classroom. And again, if you were in the earlier course this morning, I was talking about collaboration in a slightly different context, but also just, whenever we have students collaborate, it's very important that we explicitly teach them how to do it. Because what happens a lot is that teachers put kids in groups with no instruction, no modeling, and then it just becomes kind of a mess because kids don't know how to collaborate with each other. And so it's really, the onus is on the teacher to take the time. And I know it feels like a lot of time sometimes, and we're always feeling strapped for time, but it's time well spent if you can provide that scaffolding so kids can actually work well together and be productive in the long run, taking that, 2 or 3 classes to kind of really monitor it and stop and fishbowl and reflect on it and all of those things. In the end, you're going to get more bang for your buck if you can set kids up for success. But another thing that you can do is provide sentence stems so that they can, acknowledge diverse perspectives. Things like, I hear what you're saying, but I disagree, and here's why. Those kinds of things. You've probably seen those kinds of sentence stems before, but they help kids learn how to have conversation and debate, but in a respectful way. Okay, relationships and communication. Co-creating norms with students for interacting on social media, providing a mechanism for students to problem solve together, providing a checkpoint in a virtual group, so that students can kind of share with you how it's going. Do they need some help? And then in terms of dealing with cyberbullying and digital drama and hate speech, again, as we talk about co-creating digital spaces, how can students report concerns? Is there more than one way for them to do that? How do we accept different family norms, religious, cultural, even just timelines for, this family doesn't, they're not online when they eat dinner from 6 to 7 every night. Or they're in church on Sundays or whatever it is. And so can we respect that, and how do we learn to work within those parameters? Okay, news media and literacy. Whoops. So to support media literacy, you want to provide age-appropriate tip sheets on topics like finding credible information, properly citing others' work. You want to be really transparent about your process for finding your sources and selecting them, so that students know it's really not okay to to use something from someone else without citing it appropriately. So there are 3 ways. If this is sort of a summary of digital literacy, and it's 3 concepts. The first is clickbait. We've all heard the term, and it refers to any text, headline, video, or title that's deliberately written to kind of pique your interest and get them to click. And generally speaking, clickbait is written by organizations that want people to go to their website, so that they can show ads and earn revenue. But it's also used by malicious website owners who want to infect your computer with malware. So the general rule of thumb is, don't click on a link or a video with a title that makes you angry. And it's a really hard urge to fight, but again, that goes to emotional management and recognition of what you're feeling. And it can make a big difference because it can keep you from getting your computer infected with a virus or clicking on an article that's fake news, which is the second component, fake news, which is, something fairly new, and it refers to any media outlet that's publishing significantly biased or intentionally false information. And that's often used with clickbait to get people to click on the link and read whatever it is, they're writing about. So if your students are reading something that sounds incredibly skewed to one side over another, it's probably fake news. And the same goes for any piece that's written by an admittedly biased entertainment source, tabloid, gossip website. So if it's an unflattering image of someone with a text plastered at the top or the bottom, you can safely assume it's fake news and best left ignored. And then empathy. Empathy is important, again, because successful digital literacy curriculum requires that students think beneath the face value text that they're reading online. Instead, they need empathy to truly understand the information they're absorbing. And so if you have empathy, it's gonna push you to question the writer's motivation behind something that they're seeing. It may also, inspire someone to reach out for words of comfort. So empathy is just sort of, there's kind of no downside to empathy. And I want to backtrack a little bit with the fake news and the, sometimes the news, especially if we're talking about like a tabloid or a gossip, whatever, sometimes the news, whatever they're talking about is true, but it's just mean-spirited, and why is it anybody else's business? And so I think that's something we want to teach kids as well. Maybe it's true, maybe there's a kernel of truth to it, but even if there is, is that something that you would want shared about you? And do you really want to be reading that? Okay, so this is a short video on the do's of digital citizenship.
Far too often, digital citizenship is taught in a negative way. Here's the list of things not to do online. And while I deeply appreciate the intent behind all the anti-cyberbullying campaigns, we don't think other things as anti in our schools, right? I mean, we don't have like an anti-illiteracy campaign. We teach people to love to read. Digital citizenship shouldn't be a list of don'ts, but a list of do's. La Cañada School District in California decided instead of teaching anti-cyberbullying, they were going to start teaching their kids what it meant to be good cyber friends, which includes watching out for people who aren't being treated respectfully online. In addition to being more compelling, by the way, keeping it positive is actually something you can practice. You can't practice not doing something. The other thing we need to evolve is our thinking around recognizing that the skills required to thrive as a digital citizen go far beyond just online safety. It includes being respectful of people with differing viewpoints from our own, recognizing fact from fiction online, using technology to engage in civil action, knowing how to have the right balance of activities online and offline, and of course, knowing how to be safe and also create safe spaces for others. These aren't skills that students are learning, by the way, by watching adults either, you may have noticed. So we also have to do a better job ourselves. Last year in Chicago, we challenged you to commit to doing at least one thing differently to teach digital citizenship in a positive, broader way. And we asked you to share your stories. We got so many stories. I wish I could take the time to share all of them with you, but let me just give one or two quick examples. Laura Carey, a fifth grade teacher in California, committed to modeling good digital citizenship by citing all of the sources that she used. In her words, no more snatching an image just because it's for my class. or a technology integration specialist from Elk Grove USD who committed to supporting students in, again, in their words, using technology as a global microphone to connect communities beyond their classrooms. Unfortunately, the people who most need to hear this message aren't sitting in this room today. So we are planning a bold next step, and we need your help. ISTE, in partnership with like-minded organizations, is launching an international campaign around redefining digital citizenship. We're calling, yes, you can clap for that, thank you. We're calling on students, educators, parents, and community members to take action in ensuring that our students have the skills they need to be effective digital citizens. We will be curating the best resources we can find to help teachers and parents talk to their kids about these important skills, and we'll be sharing them at digcitcommit.org. With your help, we have a shot at creating a radically better future.
Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do in your note catcher is you are going to choose an SEL learning resource that is your go-to in your classroom, something that you use all the time. But you're going to think about it through the lens of digital citizenship. So if it's something that you're using in your classroom, in your in-person interactions with your students, what could that look like digitally? And you want to connect the redesign to at least one of the 6 core topics of digital citizenship. And you want to put it in a way that's teaching digital citizenship in a positive framework. So the do's rather than the don'ts. This is all explained in your note catcher. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to do that. I'm going to stop sharing, and we will come back together in like 3 minutes or so. I'm also going to put 2 articles in the chat that you might want to take a look at as you think about this. That would be great if you shared in the chat. I love that. If you haven't looked in the chat, take a look at the comments that have been dropped. I particularly like the growth mindset from a digital perspective. That makes a lot of sense. And I'm also thinking along those lines, if you had students then reflect on their behaviors online or their collaboration online and identify what they're doing well, and then maybe something that they'd like to, an area for growth. That's another way of, focusing on the relationships and communication. Yeah, great. Okay. Yep, connection and communication go hand in hand. We must apply these ideas to the digital part of our lives as well. Yeah, I completely agree. I really think that the skills that we are trying to develop in students in real life, for lack of a better term, are just as important digitally. And the real difference is just helping them understand the reach of, especially when we're talking about interactions with other humans, the reach and the impact online compared to what's happening, between two people in person. And the influence of social media. And then there's all of the stuff about safety and your digital footprint and all of that. But so much of it is really just about relationships and how are we treating each other. Okay. All right. We are coming to the end of our time together. Oh, accountable talk. Digital response system. I like it. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so we are coming to the end of our time together, so I want to make sure that you have all the information that you need. So Solved is offering, we have, I keep losing track, but 6 different modules, and each module has 6 courses. So we offer 36 courses. Each course is 1 CTLE credit. You can take those courses synchronously or asynchronously. And so you can scan the QR codes here to sign up. There is also the links for synchronous and asynchronous courses is also on your resource sheet. And when you take the course, you will receive your CTLE credit generally within 24 hours. But I'm going to tell you that today, we're running 18, no, is that right? 15 courses today, I believe. So that's a lot of certificates that they need to get out. So I would give it till the end of the week, like end of day Friday. And if you haven't received your certificate or certificates by end of day Friday, then you can reach out. And you can reach out to admin@solvedconsulting.com, which I believe is on the resource sheet. And if it's not, I'll put it in the chat. You can also, when you send that, just CC me at christine.delnegro@solvedconsulting.com. Again, I will put that in the chat in a minute. I just want to leave this up for a second. So you can sign up for more courses. And if you refer 6 DOE members to the courses, you will receive a $50 Amazon gift card for your classroom. And I have a survey link for you, which is also on the resource page, but I'm going to put those things in the chat. So, let's see. What just happened? Okay, so first of all, the survey. You are welcome. So that's the survey. My email address is going in the chat now. And the admin address. So if you have an issue with the certificate, reach out to admin, CC me. I'll make sure you get it. And the more information you give us, the better. So especially if it's multiple courses, just say like, I'm reaching out because I took 3 classes on November 7th, and these are the 3 classes that I took. I think that is it. I will be offering at 1 o'clock course F in social emotional learning. If you are interested in taking that, it is, there's so many courses, I can't keep track of what the titles are. So course F is building community circles for SEL. So that will be offered from 1 to 2. There will be at least 2 other courses being offered from 1 to 2 today. And then we are offering courses every Monday from 2:30 to 3:30. You can sign up through those links. for the live courses. And then if you prefer the asynchronous courses, those are all available as well. So thank you all for your time today. I appreciate it. I hope that you found the information useful. Oh, the course survey is dated 10/30. You know what? Can you put in today's date? I was wondering about that. I think I was supposed to give you a different link. Don't worry about the date. You can just fill it in for today. If there's a way for you to put today's date, do that. Otherwise, don't worry about it. That's on me. All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your day, and hopefully we will see you again here soon. All right. Thank you. Any questions before I log off? Okay. You don't have the survey for, okay. Oh, if you're interested in the recording, you can email admin at Solved and they will send it to you. Okay, the 9 a.m. Yeah, give me a second and I will put that in the chat. I'm gonna stop recording.